Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, Bloomberg Show, Just Like Peasants, Vassals, fellow NSA targets. I'm a useful idiot, and today I want to talk about XKeyscore. And I know this story's about a week and a half old now, but it's a pretty important one. And a little digging provided some interesting details to this that make it a very important story. So anyway, the groundwork is basically there's an NSA project called XKeyscore. And it takes a few keystrokes by a data analyst to bring up everything a targeted user does on the internet, from chat sessions to email to browsing habits to Facebook comments to social media data to buddy lists to cookies, everything. And I was really shocked, even though I already assumed that NSA already had access to all the contents, even though the spokesmen are denying that they do. The fact is they have all the technology and have had it for years to read the contents of all our electronic communication. So now it's finally settled. We don't have to argue about it anymore. We know all these assholes parading up at these hearings are all lying, and we know the government's lying, and Obama can go on TV and say we don't have a domestic spying program and blah, 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 blah. But here we go. XKeyscore is the smoking gun, the heart of the beast. This, to me, is the final piece of the puzzle and ties the whole system together. For one thing, the map of where XKeyscore is used is global. So we're talking about Central and Latin America, all over Europe, Japan, India, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. And this whole XKeyscore program is set up specifically for the so-called Five Eyes group, which is the USA, Canada, Australia, UK, and New Zealand. So here's one big piece of the puzzle, and that's the fact that we now have confirmation that basically an entire global dragnet. We're putting together the pieces. Germany and France and the Five Eyes countries are all revealed in their surveillance programs. And now we find out that, yes, every country in the world is involved in the dragnet, and XKeyscore is the NSA project that ties the whole global thing together. And then we have, of course, all the protestations about whether the government and the NSA has access in real time to real data, to content. And once again, here's another big piece of the puzzle. Of course, they've had the access to this data. Many incidents have proved it. All kinds of information has come forward that proves it, and this just confirms it beyond any doubt whatsoever. Because Edward Snowden had come out and was attacked for saying, I, sitting at my desk, could wiretap anyone from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email, unquote. And I want to get back to that quote in a minute, but he said that, as it turns out, it was absolutely true. The system requires an email because many behaviors online are anonymous and need an identifier, a username or a domain to scour databases of collected internet traffic and metadata. And as it turns out, the system is available to NSA analysts and can be accessed without a warrant. So that's another very, very important detail. So, as it turns out, no wonder this intelligence in this NSA system and all this spying is so rampant, and with so little oversight. We have a system that is available to NSA analysts that can be accessed without a warrant. So much for the FISA court, so much about all the controversy about wiretapping, so much for all the controversy about all the other surveillance that's going on. Here it's pretty much spelled out that just about anybody in the NSA, as it turns out, private contractors like Edward Snowden. So we have 1 million people that have access in this country to the highest security levels, and it appears that any one of them could search anybody they wanted to search just by filling out some forms. I'll attach some material below, but it shows just how easy it was. Page comes up on your screen. You just punch in a few words, and you're good to go. And the other thing that's interesting about the system is that obviously it's been in place for a while, because not only do we have a training manual from 2010, and that's one of the things I'll attach below. But they also made claims, the NSA also made claims that by 2008, 300 terrorists had been captured using intelligence from XKeyscore. And so they're saying by 2008. So that means the systems was in place 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years before that. Who knows? But the fact is, we know already that it's been in place for the last 5 years. And so this very crucial tool in the surveillance state has been around for 5 years at least now, if not more. And one of the interesting things about this, too, is analysts can also search using a name, a telephone number, an IP address, keywords, even the language that you use, or the type of browser. And so there's a lot of ways to access this material. And as you can guess, once you get a couple of different pieces of information, like an address and a phone number and an IP address, it's easy to cross-reference all the other information they were talking about. Like I say, let me reiterate: the chat sessions, the emails, the browsing history, Facebook comments, other social media data, buddy lists, cookies, your buying habits, what sites you visit. This training manual by the NSA is interesting in itself, because it says, according to training manuals produced in 2010, the system requires analysts to request data on certain individuals. And all you have to do is fill in a justification box on your computer screen. And they even supply a bunch of different examples, so you can even just cut and paste it in. But the NSA training manual also says that XKeyscore is the NSA's widest-reaching program developing intelligence from computer networks, or what they call digital network intelligence, DNI. The program covers everything a typical user does on the internet, including the content of emails, websites visited, and searches, as well as metadata. So here we go again. Their own documentation spells out that they have access to the content of emails and all your searches. And this pretty much spells out that they can also access all this electronic media in real time. And it also spells out that they can also access metadata and sift through some of the metadata with this software. So those are another two key components to this whole surveillance system: real-time, targeted individuals, targeted IPs, IP addresses, and also the ability to sift through metadata. All things, once again, they say they don't have the technology to do, and it's spelled out in their own documentation from 3 years ago that they do indeed can do that. In fact, another NSA document describes how the program, quote, searches within bodies of emails, web pages, and documents, unquote. So there we have it a second time from another document that the searches within the bodies of emails, web pages, and documents. So that is content, another confirmation. In fact, it says it even records your emails from from CC, BCC lines, and the contact us page on websites. And interestingly enough, in spite of all these denials, that a component of this XKeyscore program is something called the DNI presenter. So let's remember, that's the Digital Network Intelligence Presenter, and that's what they use to read the content of emails. So they even have a specific device within the XKeyscore program that specifically is for reading the content of emails. So once again, the content of emails is being accessed, and apparently accessed fairly easily on every level. So we have the NSA further admits the system can pinpoint communication between people online and over the phone, and find mention of certain terms and names in blog posts, emails, and other shared content. So they're able to use target words and names as well to use to sift through blog posts, emails, and other shared content. Once again, make these connections with the IP address, telephones and everything else. And predictably, the NSA and public are saying, quote, allegations of widespread unchecked analyst access to NSA collection data are simply not true, unquote. So as we've learned from government speak, that's the best way for us to know that it is true. And I also like the legal justification that the NSA and the government uses. They say that, well, foreigners are not protected by the U.S. Constitution, so therefore they can invade everyone else on the planet's privacy, and should any Americans have any contact whatsoever with anybody overseas, then they are picked up in the same dragnet. So they don't have to specifically say they're going after Americans. Americans just get picked up in the dragnet. But, of course, they're going after Americans, too. Let's just think about how the government thinks. So they have a system where they can actually just walk in, fill in a few words on a computer screen, and search for any individual they want, and look at all their electronic communication. What are the odds of that being abused? Well, the answer should be obvious. So that's how government works. So if they can do it, they are doing it. And as my dad used to say, if somebody's thought of doing it, then somebody's doing it. And let me get back to this Snowden quote, though. I find that, once again, a little odd. It seems so staged and so perfect. As Edward Snowden says, I, sitting at my desk, could wiretap anyone from you or your accountant to a federal judge and even the president if I had the personal email. And also the fact that all this material, well, except for the XKeyscore program itself, but a lot of the material about being able to read content and do searches has been available for a while. So once again, this seems to be spreading self-censure across the globe, and I'm still curious about how this whole Snowden episode will play out. But anyway, I digress. Let's wrap up this thing about XKeyscore. So here's the linchpin, seemingly the linchpin, between all the metadata, the surveillance, real time, the fact that it circumvents the FISA court system, it circumvents the Constitution, it circumvents all legal systems, seemingly, and it seems to tie everything together. And then when you put the XKeyscore program together with the recently opened Utah data center, then that seems to be a pretty formidable combination. The data center's up and running now, so now they'll be able to store all this data. And that was one of the things that was missing from the XKeyscore program. In fact, in 2012 alone, 41 billion total records collected and stored in XKeyscore for a single 30-day period. So they had a lot of storage problems. The data wasn't permanent, and data could only be stored for a few days. They had an interim solution, because they used to have a pinwheel database that they could move interesting material into and store for up to 5 years. So they had a temporary solution. But now with the Utah data center up and running, they've solved their storage problems, and it would pretty much seem like the system is complete. So there it is. Seemingly, from looking at the news, the police state is now complete, and seemingly now with the Utah data center opening and systems like the XKeyscore system, then the surveillance system is now complete. So as I like to say, welcome to the 21st century. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.